Welcome back to another episode of this podcast on I Body. Today I'm going to be talking about why I dropped out of college and why it was the best decision. Now, when I've been telling some people these stories, I always got a lot of responses saying like, "Oh, why don't you go back to school? It's only 3 classes." Or like, why don't you just find other schools? Like you can finish it. It's like I received a lot of feedback from people telling me to go back to school, but I knew deep down inside I really did not want to go back to school. So how it all happened was before the pandemic. I was told from my advisor that they could graduate me on time or a half semester. So I was following their protocol, following their things all the way up to my senior year. And when that senior year came around, when I went to meet with my advisor again, they were saying that I had to stay for another full year. And I was like, at that point, I was just already done because school wasn't really it for me. The only kind of reason I went to school was for football. And don't get me wrong, like I still had great academics, but I just really care more about football than school entirely. So when I got that news from saying that to stay for a full year, that kind of just like was the tip of the iceberg for me to really kind of what I really want to do with school if I want to keep continue or go a different pathway. So, and what was funny too was I had some of my other buddies that were the same major as me. Exercise science is what was my major. And they were doing duplicate classes, the prerequisite and the requisite at the same time, where I was told I had to do one, I had to follow one by one. So I had to do prerequisite, then a requisite, prerequisite, then a requisite. So it just kept pushing me behind, and like my other buddies were getting ahead, which they graduate half a semester versus me. I had to stay the full year. So fast forward, pandemic happens, lockdown happens. I finished school through online, and it was the summer, and they weren't quite sure what they want to do. They didn't know they want to keep the kids on campus, or they were trying to go hybrid, or they were trying mostly put the kids online. So throughout the whole entire year of summer, I was just working, trying to figure out what was going to be my best option. On top of that, too, I was trying to figure out another internship within my major to pursue, whether that was going to be back at home or that was going to be back in Ohio. That's where I went to school at. So it was crazy because I went on a camping trip. I came back from that weekend of camping trip about 2 weeks before school started. Well, actually, I'll pause on that. So me and my buddy were also looking for apartments at down Ohio near our school too at the same time. So we found a place. After we found a place, we got an email from the school saying like, here's the application. Go ahead, fill out this form. See if you guys get approved. So me and my roommate filled out the application. We both got accepted. So that was like probably middle of summer. So fast forward, go on this camping trip. Come back from the camping trip 2 weeks before school started. I received an email saying like one of my major classes is not offered online. So I'm just sitting here scratching my head. I'm like, that really doesn't make sense. I got an email saying that I was approved to go online, but then I got an email saying from my professor that one of her classes wasn't offered online. So pretty much at that point, from the first tipping point of staying had to stay an extra whole year just for 3 classes, and on top of that, I had to take more BS classes just to be a part-time student. I was cool with that. And then on top of that, now I was like the sales privilege line. Now I wasn't, and I canceled the apartment when I got accepted to go online. So it was a whole debacle of just like going back and forth and like trying to figure out what my situations were. So at that moment, once I received that email, that was just like the boiling point of like, I'm just really not going to pursue with school. So I was like 2 weeks before school started. I just kept working. I was just kind of keeping my options open, trying to figure out what I really want to do. So, uh, luckily, at the same time that I got the email, I knew a buddy that lived down in Houston, and he posted it on his story saying like his boss was looking for some people to hire and to work with. So I kind of jokingly messaged my buddy saying like, "Hey, buy me a ticket, I'll come down." And he said, "When you like to come down?" So I was like, "All right, let me slow the horses down here." So what I did is I took a week preparation, doing pros and cons. I'm already kind of knew my decision, but I was just kind of morally saying just my farewells and goodbyes from the people I knew and I associated with the time there. So I was kind of just asking like my friends, my family, coworkers, anybody who I like associated with. I was just kind of letting them know that I was pretty much like leaving Texas I was leaving home to go to Texas. So after that whole week, I let my body know that I'm ready to come down to Texas. So pretty much after like not going to school, messaged my buddy, and his buddy was able to like hire me on the spot, like not even like face to face, like just through word of mouth. In October of 2020, I moved down to Houston, Texas, and that's where I'm still currently living at after almost close to 4 years. So I would kind of say like dropping out of school was kind of the best thing because since almost close to 4 years of living in Houston, I've been kind of living the best life to be honest. Now and again, there's a lot of ups and a lot of downs here, but I would say like with the almost like the 4 years I've been living here, I learned so much more in these 4 years than I ever did learning in college. And it was crazy too. Is when I dropped out of college, moved down to Texas, I started as like turf landscaping, and I don't know why I decided to do that, but I did because at the time, like, I was an athlete, I was built for it. I was like, nothing could really, I can do that type of work. But I was like, I never really was exposed to the Houston weather and the humidity. So I only did that for a couple months just because, like, long story short, like, once I got to know the boss, I wasn't really trying to work with someone that was like negative, that wasn't really like, the standards wasn't really structured and things like that. And plus, on top, like, I wasn't really like trying to keep doing the man labor just because like it was just so much. And like what I was trying to do, like do bodybuilding and things like that, wasn't really just going to work out for me. So I did that work. I transferred into another job after like 3 months of working on like landscaping. I was thankful for doing landscaping because it was a open gate to first get me down to Houston, and secondly like find a spot, and thirdly like kind of get my feet wet for a little bit while living on my own, especially in a big city. Because from where I'm from Erie, Pennsylvania, so that's like 19,000 population. So coming from like a 19,000 population to about 2 million people, that's a big difference right there. So just kind of like get my feet wet, just kind of, and especially living on my own too. Well, I did have roommates, but like just being by yourself, like college, you're still kind of by yourself. But I like had 2 hours away to get home, so if anything happened, I could be there, or vice versa. But I was like, when you like across the country, to be honest, like 21 hours of driving, maybe like 3 hours of flying, it's a little bit big different too. So I was looking for a new job, found another job that was like, I did door to door sales. That was honestly the next best opening gate for me because I got to meet a lot of cool people, like minded people, and also got me out of my comfort zone again too. Where to the point of just learning how to talk to people, learning how to communicate with people, different personalities, different ways, how to grow a thick skin, how to learn from no's, all those things like that. And that's something like, school doesn't really teach you on that. Like they don't really teach you like hands-on experiences or practical terms of like, of the real world. So I did that for 9 months, learned that while I was also like working out at this gym that I currently work at right now as well at Houston Gym. Um, I was, just working door to door sales, going gym. That was pretty much my life. And at one point, I just came up to the staff member while I was working out at the gym. I was like, "Hey, like, are they open and hiring?" And before that too, I had calling signs when I was doing door to door sales because I would pitch a product about certain things and they weren't really like interested in at the time. But like when I would walk away from the door, some of the customers would come up to me and like ask like if I was a personal trainer. And I said like not really, but like I do that on the side sometimes. And like I said, with a conflict in my schedule with this work, it's very tough. So it was like, it didn't happen just once or twice. It happened like, 5, 6 times when I was doing it. So I was like, that has to be a calling sign. So I decided to approach the gym, asked if I could become a personal trainer there at the Houston gym. And from there on, been there almost 3 years. Personal training is honestly the best decision of my life, and even best decision to move forward from not going to school. Yes, even though I had 3 classes left, and yes, I can go back to school and completely get a degree. And that was my goal too, was to be my first relative in my family to graduate from college. That was my goal originally, but sometimes goals change. Sometimes um, things happen where like sometimes things don't go as planned. You might just have to take a different route, or you might figure out what's going to be best for you, what's going to suit your best options and things like that. And that's the route I took. And on top of that, another risk I kind of really took was when I moved down here, I never really knew that person face to face here in Houston. The only way, it's gonna be a funny story. The only way I knew that person was through over Xbox gaming, through Call of Duty, Halo, you name it, things like that. So I might get a lot of shit for it, but hey, it's all right. You know, in life you gotta take some risk, and that's one risk I took. Like I never met this person face to face. It was just about like 10 years of gaming and shit like that. So like I moved down just based off like Xbox friends or like online friends for people that know. But honestly, and again, like that's a risk I was willing to take, and that's a open gateway that I'm very grateful for having things that. And I think that's in life too. When it just comes to your fitness, or just comes to your journey, or just anything you do, is like you gotta take that risk, right? There's gonna be sacrifices. It's gonna be in vain, right? It's just more like what you gotta sacrifice, right? For me, is like, oh, I'm gonna leave my family. You know, I'm gonna be like 21 hours away from my family. You know, I'm not gonna be home as much. You know, I'm not gonna kind of see like the high school friends, things like that. Um, you know, I just kind of had to start from scratch again, like build myself back up, right? I pretty much came down with hardly anything, just pretty much like TV, Xbox, clothes. That was pretty much about it. Just like the small essentials I need and just kind of build myself up over time. But it's like the sacrifice you're gonna need, especially when it comes to your journey, you know, you're gonna try and achieve that certain, you know, weight loss goal, that physique, whatever that case is, like you're gonna have to sacrifice some things to get to where you desire. And you have to take some risks too, right? Like you might have to take some risks where you might lose some people because they're not on board with what you're trying to do, and that's okay. A lot of people not gonna understand what you're trying to do, where you're trying to go. A lot of people not gonna understand like why you're doing this, and that's okay. You have to be okay with that answer from other people that you're gonna have to lose them or just push them to another group, and that's okay because there's a lot of people that told me like, hey, just finish your school, or like, why don't you go back to school? Like, yeah, I could have done those things, but at the same time, it's like, what else was it gonna be good for me? Well, what was I gonna be getting more benefit from having to go for a full extra year of school and for only 3 classes, where I got like so much more learning experience just doing 3 different jobs, but also too been living in a bigger city for about almost 4 years. So I think like I'd take that granted over anything versus the 4 years I got in school. Yes, now I know people are gonna say like, well, you just waste that money. I wouldn't say that really. Like, yeah, granted, like, am I a student loan debt? Yes, but I would say really is just not. It wasn't wasting money. To be honest, like the connections I'm being the my day ones since I first got into school and things that you know, work experiences on top of that too. A lot of things like all the experiences I've gone through just through like relationships with teachers, students, other like associates who work and stuff like that. Those are connections I'm not gonna forget, and like those are things like sometimes college teaches you. You know, also too, college kind of teaches to how you live on your own, right? Like even though like I was 2 hours away, it still teaches you how to be adult responsibility, take care of yourself, take care of things. You know, sometimes it's not always gonna be there for you, and like you gotta figure the shit on your own. So it's the same thing. It kind of prepped me to when I moved down to Houston. I was never really a homesick guy, so like when I moved down to Houston, it was it was like shit. This is it. Like we gotta make it happen. So times is like it does become tough, and like it becomes like so surreal that it's like, damn, it's actually really happening. Like we're moving forward with this. Like it's real. Like you're living that moment. And that's what's happening. It's like you are living in that moment. And that's when like sacrifices and risks have to come to play. Because again, people are not gonna be on the same board with you. And you have to be okay with that. Some people might just, peer pressure you to like try and like stay with them. People are gonna peer pressure you to, not achieve what you're trying to achieve, and that's okay because again, people are gonna try to keep them where they're at. But if you're trying to succeed, you gotta do things that they're not willing to do, and that's what you gotta do, and things that. So, and that's why I said college, like dropping out of college, was the best decision because within the 4 years, just to kind of do the manual labor a little bit, getting used to the humidity, doing door-to-door sales, getting learn how to communicate with people, negotiate, just work on communication skills, and then translate into just person training. Like especially that was my end goal too, was become a trainer, become helping people out well the best that I can, and how much I can. Just changing lives. Make it for the better and things like that. Whether it's young, same age, older, whatever the case is, all across the board, the platforms. How can I make the life different and better each time? And that was my goal too, is just be in that field, be in that environment just with others who are trying to see the same goal and be their guides with them. And I really can't, really complaining about it. I've been so grateful for it. And like all these, again, like there's been ups, there's been downs. You know, sometimes it's been a little bit more downs than ups, but that's how life goes. And it's just pretty much how you handle it. You know, at the end, like I do have that last resort. Like if something does happen, I can always just go back home with my parents. But it's like sometimes I don't really want to use that because like at the end, I'm still like I know it's like I'm looking at it as like this is like last option hope and things says like if it doesn't work out, I still gotta figure out ways. It's like even though like it might not go as planned, like you still gotta figure things out. You can't always use the last resort. Same thing when like you're in the fitness journey, like there's so many different ways you can go about it, but if you notice you haven't been stuck with there, you notice that you haven't really gone the full 100% mode of trying to achieve something, and then like if it still doesn't work, then you can move on to something else, and that's okay. But like until you know that you have a moment like you've gone a full 100% and know it's still not working, then it's okay to move on or go to the next plan. But again, like I said, dropping out of school was the best option. And people are like, you know, especially I'm 26, so I've been out of school for almost 4 years, and people are looking to, you know, they're in school, they're don't know what they want to do, they don't know what they want to continue, they don't know if they want to drop out, what their future plans are. What I would just really do is kind of just reassess what like is it really teaching you, is it really helping you get to the life you want, like get closer to your dreams and things like that. And then if it isn't, then you know you can reassess and figure out what you really want to do. If it is, then just keep doing what you're doing. But again, like I said, like school is a great experience. Just kind of network, kind of get to meet people, get yourself out of the shell, get you out of that comfort zone, just become a different person. But again, if you're in that position, you know, always feel free to reach out to me. More than happy, you know, talk with you on that too, because I've been through that. I understand that feeling, and you know, be more than happy to help. So, guys, that's it. That's the story of kind of how I got here to Houston, why I dropped out of college was the best decision. So, if you guys like the video, please like, subscribe, comment. I'll catch you guys in the next one.